Everybody's been talking about the Apple Vision Pro coming out. And one of the things that got a lot of attention this past week when Apple announced what apps were going to be available was that missing from that list was Netflix. So they talked about a Disney Plus experience, an Amazon Prime Video experience, Paramount Plus, Discovery Plus, all the pluses and maxes, and no Netflix app. And when we say no Netflix app, we mean that you won't even be able to use the iPad app for Netflix on the Apple Vision Pro. Now, we know that Apple and Netflix have this really weird business relationship. I think Netflix doesn't want to play, but they know they need to be on the platform, meaning Apple TV and the mobile devices, but they're not biting on this. And they're intentionally not making their iPad app not work. We don't necessarily know why. We know that they've confirmed that they don't currently have any plans to make an app for the Vision Pro, but you could always watch Netflix shows in a browser on your Vision Pro. Won't that be delightful, Josh?
It really sounds like the ideal experience.
In all seriousness, it's probably not awful because you can always make your browser video full screen. And so you would have the full screen video experience in however that ends up rendering in the Vision Pro. We don't know, but it's just clunky, right? You're not going to be able to have just built-in onboard controls that work the same way as any other video player. And it's so Netflix. This is just so Netflix. I want two of my favorite companies to just play nice together, just get along. I own stock in both of them. I want them both to do well. They've got to figure out a way to do that in a way that is, I don't know, less adversarial.
So I have a couple of thoughts. One is, I wonder if this is not actually an adversarial sort of decision here, that maybe it's just Netflix saying, we don't think a lot of people are going to have this, so we don't want to support it. And I truly mean support. Like, they don't want to have to deal with support calls and stuff like that for a very small fraction of a percentage of users using this thing if they don't have to. The other thing is, you said that if it's playing in the browser, maybe it won't support native playback controls or whatever that the Vision Pro does. And frankly, I don't even know what all the Vision Pro does for these sorts of things. I don't do a lot of research on $3,500 AR headsets because I'm never going to buy one. But if I were watching Netflix in Safari on a Mac, would the play pause button on my keyboard pause the video? Probably. So I would expect that any sort of play, like, because that's really all you're doing, right? Like, you're not, maybe you would skip around a little bit, but probably not all that much in Netflix. It seems like all you really want is play and pause. So if I can easily play and pause with it running in the browser, then maybe this is a non-issue.
But you might not be able to do things like skip back or say, what did he say? Or turn on captions with your voice, or things that you can just do with Apple devices and Apple customers are used to.
I didn't know you could do that. Can I yell at my iPad to turn on captions?
You can ask Siri to turn on captions, and Siri will turn your captions on.
Huh. Interesting.
As long as it's using the standard player. So the fact that they've just decided to opt out of all of that, again, not surprising, but absolutely annoying. Of course, you're right. It's a small group of people. Estimates are that maybe 180,000 of these have been ordered initially. Projections are that they plan to sell about 500,000 of them in the first year. We'll see how this does. Like I said, I'm Not planning to buy one anytime soon. I can't wait to be able to try one at some point because I think it's going to be really cool. But yeah, but they're not the only ones.
No.
So two other very noticeably missing apps are YouTube and Spotify. Now, again, it's early days, so a lot of these companies could be just waiting and seeing what's going on. YouTube has also said that the iPad app is not going to work on the Vision Pro. Why you're seeing companies make this decision, I just don't know. It almost sounds like they I don't know. I don't know what I can't anticipate or understand why companies would make that decision unless they're just wanting to stick it to Apple. And Google and Apple also have a history with YouTube and getting YouTube to work properly on its devices like the Apple TV. So maybe this will change. Who knows? YouTube, of course, is, I think, the most watched video service anywhere in the world. So there's going to be demand for it. And I suspect at some point this will probably change. Now, on the Spotify side, sure, music apps, is that really as important? There will be some music apps available, but I don't know how people are going to care, frankly, if Spotify isn't available, if there are other ways that you can play music. Would you care if Spotify wasn't available in your virtual reality headset?
Well, it's got a web browser. Like, that's the thing. Maybe they're just all going back to what Steve Jobs originally said. Who needs apps when you've got a web browser?
Yep.
You can run all of these in a browser, and for YouTube especially, there's so many third-party YouTube clients out there that maybe it's not as much of an issue. At least I assume on the Apple ecosystem there are, because there certainly are on Android.
Yeah, I don't honestly know now that we actually have real YouTube on Apple TV. So I haven't gone looking for YouTube alternatives. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how these companies end up deciding or not deciding to support the platform. And obviously, a lot of that's going to have to do with how well the platform does and how much control Apple exerts over the experience.
Yeah. I mean, if these things take off like gangbusters, which is inconceivable at this price point, then maybe these app makers, that's not really a fair way of describing these companies, change their mind. But until that point, there probably isn't. I kind of agree. Maybe not that much reason to spend the time or resources supporting this.